Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. The lighting is a bit funny because I'm using natural light today and I'm in a room that's fairly empty, so sorry if there's an echo, but I just wanted a change of scenery. Today we're doing the end of year book tag. I've always wanted to do this video, but I didn't have enough books, or I didn't have any like real strong opinions or experience with books, but this year I felt it would be a good time. I did just want to give credit to Destiny Sidwell, who was the first person I saw do it, and then recently Madison Kate did it as well, and I thought I'd try it for myself. So I did gather questions from both of their videos, so let's go ahead and get started. So we do have 20 questions, so hopefully this is not going to take too long and I can rapid fire some of it, because we all know I really like to talk. The first question is, a series you wish you got to this year? So I actually have 3, and some of them have been on my TBR for quite some time, and then one of them is fairly new. So the first one is Belladonna. I don't know what this whole series is called, but I know it's Belladonna, Foxglove, and Wisteria. I really wanted to start that. I do have Belladonna, but I just didn't have enough time this year, so definitely will hopefully start my year off with that. Then we have the Throne of Glass series. I have the first 2 books, but I haven't finished Akatar yet, so I'm hoping to finish that by the end of this year, and then we can start Throne of Glass. And the last one is, don't know the series whole name either, but These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, is that her name? I really wanted to start those as well, my more recent purchase, but unfortunately I haven't gotten to that yet, but hopefully starting next year we'll tackle that. It is only a duology, so it should be easy enough, but I don't know anything about those books because, yeah, I try to go into like those kind of fantasies blind, and then maybe halfway through I usually read the synopsis. The next question is the biggest letdown this year. Let me get the books for you. So I have 3 options again, and honestly these were all recommended to me by fellow YouTubers or booktubers, and I was really let down because I was so excited because everybody spoke very highly of all 3 of these books. The first one is Happy Place, and everybody and their mother loves this book. It's Destiny Sidwell, one of her favorites. It is Rachel Catherine's favorite book. I didn't get the hype. I thought it was really boring, and I think it's because it's more of a general fiction and I don't really like general fiction, and I thought it was going to be like more of like a romance, but it kind of follows the life of 2 characters and how they navigate breakups and grief, and it's not what I was expecting. So the cover and the title is misleading. It looks like a happy place, but it's not. The happy place is actually a physical place where they all used to be happy, and now they're really not. So yeah, I didn't love this book and I was really disappointed, and I don't think I want to read any more of Emily Henry books if it's like this. I know book lovers and beach reads are more people's favorites, but after taking a suggestion on this and really struggling through this, it's not for me. The writing style isn't bad, like it's very fluffy. I tried to annotate some pages as well. It's very fluffy, very like descriptive, and it shows lots of scenery, but unfortunately the actual storyline was just not for me. Then Bride. I know this one has mixed opinions, and honestly I was sure I was gonna love this book. I really was, and Ellen Catherine, is that her name? Ellen Catherine gave this a 5-star. I know a lot of other people who love Ali Hazelwood's more contemporary romance book didn't love this and probably gave it the same rating as I did. I gave this a 3-star, so very middle of the road. I loved some parts of it, and other parts of it I just didn't get on with, but I was really disappointed because I thought I was gonna love it, and it is like more paranormal romance, which I love, so I thought I would love this one, but I did not, so I was quite disappointed. I did read this after I read Akawar. Maybe that was my issue because Akawar was long, firstly, and secondly it was all encompassing, and this just didn't live up to that. And the last one I have is One Dark Window. Again, everybody gave this such high ratings. I am conflicted between a 3 and a 3.5. On my Goodreads I did give it a 3, but I'm still toying with the idea because some elements I did like, but other elements I didn't. It felt like I was reading a book. And that was it. Like, I didn't get the vibes that everybody else did. And again, I read Bride before this book, so maybe it was just the wrong book at the wrong time in the wrong place. It might have been a different outcome if I hadn't read Akawar before the video, the way I filmed this, but I was really looking forward to this. I still will read the second book, but unfortunately this disappointed me so much. And I was so excited for the concept of the magic system that they have, which is based on cards, and I thought that was going to be like, I don't know, less childish, but it felt really, really juvenile, and personally, I didn't love it. The next question is, or question 3 is, a book you read that was on your TBR the longest, and I'm sure I've mentioned this a few times now. That was Cinder. I got Cinder back last year in November, and usually I read my books pretty quickly because I don't buy a lot of books. So I thought I'd get to it pretty quickly, but for some reason I just kept putting it off. I got this book idea, or this, what do you call it, recommendation from Rachel Catherine again. She really did like it, but for her it was more of a 3-star series, where for me it was more of a 4-star series. I was so happy that I finally got to pick this book up, and I absolutely loved the story. I love dystopian, I love fairy tale retellings, and this follows a cyborg who is like set up to be a Cinderella character, and the adventure, the found family, everything about it was absolutely great, and I would recommend this book over and over again, and I'm bummed it stayed on my TBR for so long. Number 4 is your favorite reread of 2024. I've only reread 2 books this year, and the one was a thriller, and I think I gave that a 3-star. This one would be my favorite, so Powerless. I read this back in December, but before I read the second book, Reckless, I felt like I needed to reread this because I didn't remember that much. And upon rereading it, I actually liked it a lot more because the foreshadowing made sense, the story made sense, everything just connected a bit better than the first time I read it. First time I read it, I was too preoccupied with where she got all her inspiration from, like the Selection series and even Cinder. There was a couple of other series, Hunger Games, naturally. I was caught up in that the first time I read it, but obviously knowing everything all along those lines, it was easier for me to read it the second time round. I did also annotate it the second time round, and I did enjoy it a bit more. It was still only a 4-star, definitely not a 5. It was way too juvenile, way too many tropes thrown into the story, but it was still good the second time round, and I absolutely love the series as a whole. So the next question is new authors discovered in 2024. Naturally, Sarah J. Maas. You can see it right over there. I started the ACOTAR series back in January. Absolutely loved it. I eat up all her books at the moment, hence why I want to read Throne of Glass as well. I really like Sarah J. Maas's writing. I'm very, very excited to see what else her books entail, because the ACOTAR series was phenomenal in my opinion. I haven't finished it yet, but I love it so far. Then I have C.L. Taylor. I've only read 2 of her books. I read The Guilty Couple recently, and that was absolutely phenomenal. I really loved it. It was only like a 4-star for me, but I ate it up. I couldn't stop reading it. I stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning to finish that. I did also read Strangers by her, which wasn't my favorite book, but I didn't like so many points of views put in a book, and it dragged on a little bit. It felt like Groundhog's Day, honestly, and everybody's point of view just repeated the same things. But The Guilty Couple, you could see her writing had improved. It was so, so, so good. Lastly, I have Tahira Mafi, because I did start reading the Shatter Me series. I classed it as this year, but it was like towards the end of last December, which would still class as my reads this year because I had already done my roundup. So Tahira Mafi was a great one with the Shatter Me series. I did, however, start This Woven Kingdom, but unfortunately that wasn't my favorite book. I gave it a 3.5, but I do have the rest of the series and I'm hoping it gets better. Question number 6, authors that didn't work out for you. So I have 2 here, and first one is Emily Henry. Again, I just didn't click with her writing. I didn't like her storytelling stuff. Like, I just didn't feel like it was just not for me. Not for me. If everybody else enjoys it. I did put it on my Lemonade, and someone commented saying, oh, that's the first time I've ever heard anybody say something negative about Emily Henry. And it's not negative. I found the book very boring and very mundane. And for me, it just wasn't my type of book. Considering I read fantasy and thrillers most of the time, I think it just was, the pacing was off for me. And then I have Leigh Bardugo. Again, I've only read one book from her, and I'm just saying from the books that I've experienced this year. Ninth House took me over a month to read. I felt stupid reading it. It was more like academic based, and I didn't know dark academia was like that. I thought we'd get like a The Coven type of feel or like Harry Potter type of feel, but it was none of those things. It was way, way, way too overwritten in my eyes. Like the way she worded things, it could have been worded better. It could have flowed a little bit better. And like Madison Kate, she absolutely loved it. She gave it a 5-star. I gave it a 2.5, and I was really, really disappointed. I'm thinking about picking up Hellbent because I've heard that it's slightly better, but we'll see. We'll see about that. Okay, debut author you discovered this year. So I don't know how to say this, but I haven't read anybody's book that had debuted. Oh my gosh, just spit it out. I haven't read any author that was debuted in 2024, but I have read authors' debut novels that was maybe a couple of years ago. So the first one was Zach Hines, and I read 9. Absolutely loved that, and that was his debut, and so far his only novel, and that was released in 2020, I want to say 2020 or 2018. It was absolutely great for a first novel. I love that book. I literally recommend it all the time. I love dystopian anything, so that's natural for me to love it. And then there's an author called Claire Kendall, and her debut novel was The Book of You, which follows a girl who has been stalked, and the way that was written was absolutely phenomenal. I couldn't believe it was a debut novel. It was written so well. It kept me enticed all the way through. It had the right amount of ick in it and the right amount of suspense, and I thought it was an amazing book. And I think that one was also released in 2020, so not recently debuted, and I'm not entirely sure what the question intended for that, but I haven't read any debut authors that were published in 2024. So the next question I think is a rendition of a question we had earlier, and it says most disappointing read in 2024, and the previous one was biggest letdown of 2024. So I have one book that's the same in both, but let's talk about the other ones first, just so that we can not repeat too much. The first one is Daisy Hates. I read this year. I read it back in July. This book took me ages to read. I just couldn't get through it. I liked Magnolia Parks. I gave it 4.5 star, but this one just didn't hit for me. It felt like it was too long. It was too repetitive. I hate the key at the bottom of the book. It just went on and on and on, and the conflict could have been handled without all the miscommunication, and I think miscommunication is a trope I don't really like. So I found this book very, very frustrating, and I ended up giving a 3-star, which isn't terrible, and I'm still going to continue on with the series, but the way they spoke about guns and all that, I was just not interested. Like it took away from what the story was, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people either are Magnolia and BJ fans or Daisy and Christian and Julian fans. So you're one side of the others, and I think I'm leaning towards Magnolia after reading this because I found her whiny, very, very whiny and very immature with her feelings. So very disappointing for me. And then another one is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. And this is the last book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. I felt like the book ended so abruptly, and it didn't tie it up into a nice bow and just conclude the series. It left it open, and I know there's a novella after this called Joyride, but I shouldn't have to read a novella to know how the trilogy closed up, and I just felt so unsatisfied. I like Pip as a character, but in this one she was so infuriating, and yeah, it was also way too long for what it was. So unfortunately, I was really disappointed by how it all tied up together. And then again, One Dark Window, for the same reasons I said before. I was so looking forward to this book. I actually asked my brother for this for my birthday, and I was so disappointed that I didn't like it because I really wish that I liked it more than I did. There's going to be quite a bit of repetition here, but these are things I feel passionately about, so just bear with. The next question, which is question number 9, is Underdog Book of the Year, and I think that for me was Cinder, because every single person I've seen that has read this has not given it a great rating, but I thought it was amazing. Things like the font, the line spacing, the chapter headings, everything makes a book for me. It's a whole experience that I want to encompass, and even just the design of the book, it all is a package deal for me, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the way it flowed. It had just the right amount of details, and description, and I was immersed. I was really immersed. I wish it wasn't YA, but it was good. It was really good, and I can't wait to continue it. Number 10, we have sorry, I keep glancing down, but I wrote it all down so I could be a little bit more prepared. It is a book you loved in the moment, but don't think about it now. And I have A Ballad of Never After. I loved the first book so much. I liked this book, but I hated the third book. The third book was rushed. It felt like it was rushed, and I just felt like the story didn't make sense linked to the two other books. But I did love this in the moment. I gave it a 4.5 star, and I honestly haven't thought about it since. When I ended up reading the third book, I kind of had to go back and read the synopsis and look up some spoilers because I absolutely forgot what happened in it. Number 1, I can tell you with my eyes closed and in my sleep, but number 2 for me was just forgettable, but in the moment I absolutely enjoyed it, and I was so enthralled, and I couldn't wait for the third book. But yeah, don't really think about this an awful lot. Next question, number 11, is favorite book couples, and I've written down 3, so bear with me here. My first favorite couple is obviously Rysand and Farah. I'm very late to the party with ACOTAR, honestly, I know, and there's a few of us on the internet going around still trying to finish the series, but I love them. I love Farah and Rysand. They're like literally, when I read about them, when I'm in that world, I'm completely immersed and I'm rooting for them. And I just love their dynamic. So that for me is definitely my top favorite. Then the second couple, I didn't love this book, but I absolutely ate up the romance, and that is from Bride. We have Misery and Low. Absolutely love their dynamic. I love the tension. I love that they're both, different species, and interracial relationships is exactly the same, and I think that's what brought me into it. So that was very fun, like an interspecies with a vampire and a werewolf. So I don't even know how procreating would work, but I really loved that part of the book, and that's why I gave it a 3 star, was just because of those 2 characters that kept it alive. And then lastly, I'm actually on book 3 now, but from the Mindfuck series, Lana and Logan, really love them. So far, nothing crazy's happened. So, well, nothing crazy, but nothing's been revealed between the 2 of them. So I'm absolutely eating them up, and I read some last night and I was kicking my feet and giggling because I loved it so much. So definitely another one of my book couples. Question number 12 is a book you can't stop recommending, and there's a few of them. Naturally, if you watched any of my videos, you'll know. So the first one is definitely the Shatter Me series. I'm only about 3 books deep, but I absolutely love it, and I find it so immersive. I can't stop recommending it. Whenever someone's looking for a dystopian type book, or even just a YA book, I always recommend it because I love it. I love how lyrical her writing is in that, and I can't recommend it enough. And then of course, ACOTAR. If you're into fantasy, love it. So good. 5 stars, 6-star books for me, and I absolutely love it. So I would not stop recommending that. And I know I'm late, but it's still recommendable. Then I have 9. I don't have the book with me actually right now. I'll just pop a picture up. I left it behind by accident. But 9 for sure. Love the dystopian world with the fact that they have 9 lives, and every time you regenerate a life, you come back with an upgrade. I found it so interesting. I found like the writing was gorgeous, and I feel like it would make an amazing movie. So I've been recommending that one a lot as well, even though I just read it recently. And then lastly, Cinder, like I just did earlier. Cinder's a great book. Someone commented on my video about it and was like, we had those books at my library when I was in high school, and I was like, you should have read it. You should read it now because it's really good. It's really immersive. It's a great palette cleanser it's not too heavy in content. It's just, it flows so well. Question number 13 is a book that surprised you. So this is a series, but I didn't think that I would like this series. I put off buying it for the longest time. I often do this. I bought the first book. As soon as I finished the first book, I went out and bought the second book. As soon as I finished the second book, I messaged my brother and I was like, please go pick this book up. And now I have the whole series. And I didn't think I would like it because a lot of people who I follow and love and like on like, say, Book Talk, they absolutely will not read this book and refuse to read this book and hate anybody who suggests reading this book because Sarah J. Maas has a cult following. There's a reason. I wouldn't die for her, but I would die for these books. They're so good, and I would literally literally recommend them for anybody, but I am so surprised because I literally didn't think that I would love them as much as I do. I had to go to the bathroom, so sorry if things have changed a little bit. But the next book that surprised me was The Guilty Couple. I absolutely ate this up. I thought I was going into a book slump in my last reading vlog, which was a TBR jar, picks my reads. And the prompt that picked this was close your eyes and whatever your hand lands on, read that book. I read Bride and One Dark Window in that, and this broke it up perfectly. I ate it up. I stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning to finish it. It enticed me. And I spoke about it earlier. C.L. Taylor, didn't love her first book, absolutely loved this, but I was so shocked that I liked this as much. I was really scared because I didn't like her first book, Strangers, but this was great. This was great, and it really did surprise me. And then lastly, As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. I gave this book a 4.5/4.75 because this was great. This was amazing. I didn't love the first book, and then I watched the series and I was like, hey, I want to know what happened. So I went out and bought the second and third book, and the second one got me so good. I couldn't stop reading. Again, I read it in like a day or two, and it's like 400 pages, and that's not normal for me. So I was very excited that I really loved this book, and then unfortunately the last book disappointed me, but this surprised me so much because I didn't expect to like it that much, especially since I didn't like the first book at all. So very surprised by this. Next question is happiest read this year. I know a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people have said like this was a nothing book. This wasn't necessary. It was a bridging book. This was my favorite book in the series, and I gave this a 4.5. It was so close to being a 5. And I talked myself off a ledge because I tried to compare it to Akatar, and I was like, well, if I feel like that about that, I don't feel the same about this. So it's not in the same class, and they're both fantasies. So yeah, I loved this book. I was kicking my feet, I was giggling, I was rooting for them. I didn't like Peyton or Kai in the first book. Absolutely loved them in this, and I was like rooting for them. I was like, yay, they're so cute. I love the romance budding, I love the tension, I loved everything about it. And I don't get why people didn't like it. I think it's because it didn't have as much action as the first book. But this was great. All the banter and just, it's like an old school movie. Like, love it. Absolutely love it. And it made me really happy. The number 15, so we're almost there. We're almost there. I think I'm going to sit here for a very long time editing this because I have so much to say. So the number 15 is the most frustrating book you read. I don't have this with me because it was a library book, but it is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. People lied. They said it was their favorite book. It was a 5-star book, a 4-star book. Like Rachel Catherine and all her friends have a book club and they all loved it. But then I watched Ali, what is her name? I always forget. Ali Reads, Ali Good. I can't remember what her YouTube name is, but I'll pop a picture here. She said that she DNF'd the book, and I should have followed suit because I ended up giving it a 3-star. But the book was so repetitive, and you had to know a lot about gaming or want to know about gaming or have an interest in gaming because the main focus of the whole book was that. And I get that they were game creators and they were gamers, but going into the back end thing was so irrelevant. I actually skipped an entire chapter because it was describing a video game that they wanted to build. I do not care. You can give me a brief synopsis and that's all I need to know. I don't need to know 30 pages of this video game. And it was so frustrating. I was just paging through, skimming, and it just wasn't enjoyable for me. I found it was very pretentious and very overwritten, too descriptive in places where it didn't need to be descriptive. I mean, I gave it a 3-star, but it was really literally the most frustrating book I've read in a very long time. The longest book I read is this baby over here, so Akabor. This one was 700 pages. That's the longest book I think I've ever read in my entire life. 700 pages, and I thought it would take me much longer, but it took me about 6 days, but I was reading it in chunks. The font is also absolutely tiny, so this is definitely the longest book. The shortest book I read, which is question number 17, was Natural Selection by Ellen Hildebrand, and that was 54 pages, and it was a short novel. She didn't call it a novella, she just called it a short novel. So that was 54 pages, really quick. I didn't count all the novellas I read in between because a lot of them were around the 70 page mark, if not 60. So this was 54, so definitely the shortest one. Question number 18 is a book you can't stop thinking about. Again, this is going to be a lot of repetition, but definitely the ACOTAR series, because I'm balls deep in it right now. Absolutely love it. Can't stop thinking about it. Every time I look at my shelf, I'm like, I want to read the next 2 books, but I don't know if I want to do it on camera or off camera, but I really want to read the last 2 books. My partner actually arrives in 2 days and he's bringing me the last book, which I had at his place. So maybe in December I'll read that. I'm not sure, but that one is much longer. I think it's 750 pages, but honestly, I cannot stop thinking about what went on in this and how much I love it. The next one is Cinder again. I can't stop thinking about this book because I cannot believe I waited for so long. And the story is pretty fresh in my mind still. I probably read this about 3 weeks ago. Still pretty fresh. I cannot wait to read the next book. And it's on my shelf and I just keep looking at it and I can't stop thinking about it. I really can't. Lastly, I have Followers. I've spoken in depth about this a few times, but I haven't stopped thinking about it. Again, every time I look at my shelf, I think about it. Because of the dystopian real life shit that goes on in this book about social media and how people prioritize it over the well-being of their neighbors, I think that it rings so true, especially anyone who wants to be part of the social media world. I feel like this book is so relevant and I think about it and I talk about it quite a bit. The second last question, so number 19, is highest and lowest rated books you read this year. So according to Goodreads, which is usually what I use, the highest rated book on Goodreads was Akamov, which was 4.65. This was a 6-star for me, so definitely agree with that. It is the highest book on my TBR that I've read, and the way I feel about it, it deserves to be the highest. And I absolutely enjoyed this. It's my favorite book in the entire series so far because I haven't finished it. And then the lowest rated book on my TBR, or on my read books this year, is Never by Jessa Hastings, and I fully agree with it as well. It has a rating of 3.24. I didn't love this. I think I gave it a 2.5, maybe a 3 if I was trying to be nice. Didn't love this book. I didn't like the way she retold the story of Peter Pan, and I've read a lot of Peter Pan retellings, like I'm not joking, a lot. It's my favorite Disney movie, so this was very disappointing. I did think she did a really bad job in my opinion, and the ratings show that, but I fully agree. Then the very last question, which is probably going to go on for a bit longer than I wanted to, is my 2025 reading goals. So in 2024, my reading goal was 70 books and I reached 95, and I'm really proud of that number. I read a lot more books than I thought I would, and I'm definitely very proud of that. I'm very proud of that. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think it was in me. Last year, which was 2023, my goal was, I think, 48 books, and I ended up reading 65, so I upped it to 70. And I think for 2025, oh my gosh, got confused. 2025, I'm going to aim for 100 books. Fingers crossed I can do it. I'm getting married next year and a lot's going to be changing in my life, but I'm hoping I'll still have time to read. So those are all my goals. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself to read too quickly because I have such a low number of subscribers. I still need to be quite consistent with my posting. So please do forgive me if I do shorter vlogs or just do 2 books. Please let me know what you think and how you feel about the shorter videos. But I also thought I'd just share what I'm hoping to read before the year ends. It is now the 9th of December, so we do have quite a few days, but I won't be doing another reading vlog. There's only one going up. I'm not sure if it's before or after this video, but I still have books to read. So I was thinking my best plan of action would be to read mostly on my Kindle. I don't have a lot of place for Kindle books in my videos unless I do a Kindle video, and they don't do that well in my opinion. But I think now, because it's December, I'm going to try and do that a little bit more. I also just want to take a bit of a break from filming, so this might be my last video, or my vlog might be my last video. But anyway, the books that I'm hoping to read is Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. Don't know if you'll be able to see it there. And then I have Phantasma. I'm really dying to read that book because a lot of people are absolutely loving it. And then I have Spark of the Everflame as well. So those are 3 books that I am dying to read on my Kindle. Oh, I also have Crossed by Emily McIntyre, which is the Is it the last book? No, the second last book in the, what is it called? Where the villains are, I'm trying to figure out what the series is called. Oh, the Never After series, that's what it's called. So it's, I have both Crossed and Hexed, which is the second last and last book, so book 5 and 6, and I'm hoping to read those as well. They're usually pretty quick reads, so I might start one of those soon. Then the physical books I am hoping to read, but I probably won't get to all. First one is Scarlet, which is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles, which is the second book to Cinder, and I'm dying to read this, by Marissa Meyer. I can't wait to see. It is a little bit thicker, but yeah, I'm excited to see how it connects with Cinder. The next one is Ignite Me, which is the third book in the Shatter Me series. I think it's the third. Yeah, this is the third book in the Shatter Me series. I've read 2 novellas and then 2 books, and now this is the third. So I'm really hoping to get to that. Then I want to read These Infinite Threads by Tahira Mafi as well, and this is This Woven Kingdom. This is book 2. So very excited to see what else happens in here and see if my opinion has changed at all, because like I said, the first book wasn't the greatest. I gave it a 3.5. It was interesting enough, but it wasn't as good as the Shatter Me series for sure. Then I have Happenstance by Tessa Bailey, and I actually might get to this. The reason why I'm dying to read this is because everybody I know dislikes Tessa Bailey. So I want to know why they dislike her. So this was on the sales rack for 90 bucks, and I was like, why not? I might as well just try it out and see what her writing is like and what people mean. The font is absolutely tiny, but I'll probably get to this before the year ends for sure. Then I have All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this is part of the Natural series. This is also book 3, and I'm dying to know what happens next. This one's nice and short again, and these are so quick and easy to read, and I'm hoping I'll get to that. I didn't bring one book as well, and that is A Court of Frost and Starlight, and that is the novella that's in the Akatar series, so I'm hoping to read that as well. But I definitely will do a roundup in January and let you guys know all the books I did read during December. But with that being said, if this is my last video, thank you so much for all the support you've given me this year. It's all 45 or 46 of us here. Please let me know if you would like any specific videos now that you know what my TBR looks like. Now you know that my book wants or my book likes are. So yeah, let me know if we have any books or genres in common. I would love to know. But if not, I'll see you all in the new year. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye guys.